unusual couple, you know?
Oh, I don't think that was ever in question.
Well, everyone, happy Saturday. I hope you're doing well. Welcome back to the PJ Campbell Network. It is January 16th, the first Saturday of 2021 that we're doing our Watercooler chat. And we're back this week. We're talking WandaVision. I'm super excited. I am your host, PJ Campbell. And with me, as always, is my friend, Maxwell Haddad. Hello, friend.
Hello, PJ. Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday.
I'm doing well.
Yeah, man. We missed you last night on The Shining. I hope you had a good night, getting some relaxation in.
Yeah, it was nice. I needed a night off, and thank you for that.
Always.
Sometimes it becomes a lot of work, and I was glad Tim and Hogue were there to keep you company and watch that excellent film.
Yeah.
I was sad to miss it because I love the movie, but I also was exhausted.
Well, you earned it more than anything. You've had a very busy week. You've had a lot going on. But you know what? We also have a lot going on. What do we have coming up?
We do. Okay, so first of all, tonight on our Twitch, it's Family Game Night. PJCN Mario Party Madness with just a bevy of people. We got Late to the Party. We got the Smiths. We got Eric Barnes, William Bibiani and his lovely spouse. And any donations received tonight during this 8-player Mario Party Jamboree will go towards Sergio's vet and funeral fund. If you aren't aware, William's cat, Sergio, very tragically passed away recently. Our thoughts go out to William and his family. And hopefully we can raise a little money tonight to help them out. So that'll be at 9:30 Pacific, 12:30 Eastern. It's sure to be a lot of fun and a lot of chaos because 8 people playing a game meant for 4 people sounds like a recipe for chaos. Don't you think?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And I'm already just imagining how psychotic it's going to be in like the best way possible.
Yes. Now, speaking of chaos and psychotic, tomorrow is Sunday, which means it's time for the Unwind, the show about whatever. Literally don't know what is going to happen or what we're going to talk about, but we'll find something. However, a week from tomorrow is a special focused Sunday Unwind. It's a new Survivor Island. We are going to create a list of our top 10 favorite episodes of The Office, and we're going to have a great panel there. It's going to be myself, Tim Franco, Jen Kemp, and Late to the Party. So 5 big fans of The Office coming in with our individual lists and then trying to make an ultimate list. I'm sure, especially with Tim there's going to be a lot of fighting and some
Tim is chaos incarnate.
Dark horse choices. I know I have 1 or 2 that people are going to be like, really? But I'm going to stand by them. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
One of them is Scott's Tots, right?
We'll see.
Okay.
Monday night, the continuation of PJ's birthday bash as we do a watch-along of Dr. Sleep.
Yeah.
We're going to watch the director's cut, which is over 3 hours long. So this will be the single longest watch-along we've done. We've done a couple double and triple features that have been longer overall. But of the individual films we've watched, this will be the longest one. It's available on HBO Max. Hopefully you all joined us for The Shining last night so you could prep for Dr. Sleep, because I do think having seen The Shining really helps appreciate Dr. Sleep even more. As a note, I am going to be at a different house next week. So I will I'll have my computer and I'll be on, but it just won't look like this. It'll be a different location, so that'll be fun. Then Wednesday night. Wednesdays are suddenly soundtracks. And Wednesday, as I'm sure you all know, is the inauguration of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Thank the maker. I am very excited for this. Chris Clark said, you know what? It's inauguration day. I don't want to do a suddenly soundtrack. So I cajoled him, and I've hijacked suddenly soundtracks for Wednesday night. So myself, Tim Franco and David B are taking over, and we probably will have a couple other guests. We're doing add it to playlist, The Government Totally Sucks edition. What this really is, it's protest songs. So Chris said The Government Totally Sucks. You could call Stick It to the Man or Fuck the Man. I think the best term is protest songs. So we're all going to talk about the protest songs that most resonate with us, that we like the best, that are kick-ass, that fuel our rebellion. There's going to be punk music. There's going to be hip hop. There's going to be some classics. It's going to be a lot of fun. Friday night, speaking of the inauguration, And also, as you know, we've been doing Aaron Sorkin penned films, so this is sort of like the perfect culmination of that. We're going to watch The American President. I know this is one of PJ's favorite movies. It features a great performance by his favorite actor, Michael J. Fox. It's really the forefather to The West Wing. The West Wing would not exist if not for this movie. Martin Sheen is in it. I sort of like to think of this as like the test pilot for The West Wing.
I agree. Yeah, 100%.
And if you haven't seen it, it's a great movie. I'm not sure what streaming service it's on.
It's on Netflix. It's on Netflix. I looked. So assuming, of course, and not to cut you off, that they don't pull it at the last minute like happened with The Shining, where The Shining is currently moving services, which is what happened to us last night.
Do I have to have seen Dr. Awake to understand Dr. Sleep? I would recommend it. Dr. Awake is available on Quibi.
Oh, God.
So go ahead and download that app and check out all 30 2-minute-long episodes of Dr. Awake.
Yes.
Finally, I'm sure you know by now, we have a new show coming on Tuesday, January 26th called Book Nook, hosted by myself and the illustrious, wonderful, sexy, intelligent, amazing Dwayne Burke. The book is the first in the Ranger's Apprentice series, The Runes of Gorland by John Flanagan. Get a copy, read it so you can discuss it with us. And speaking of Dwayne Burke, he's here.
Oh.
Hi, Dwayne.
Hello.
Hello.
What's up, buddy?
That was one hell of a introduction, Max.
I am with each successive week, I am trying to make my introductions better and better and flatter the guests as much as possible.
Well, I appreciate it. Oh, and Brandy in the chat dropping a good independent bookstore link, so you don't have to give Bozo your money.
Yeah,
indeed.
100%.
Especially
we
during
really
the pandemic,
pushing.
we love supporting small businesses.
Yeah, we've been pushing, trying to make sure if you're ordering your books, don't go through Amazon, like go through any of the independent booksellers or anything like that. It helps them a lot more than it actually helps anyone else.
Finally, before we get into what we're here for, we do have a Patreon. Check it out. See if there's a tier that's right for you. $5 and up members just got Bloop Bloop, which is the blooper show for Box. $10 and up members got a monthly exclusive audio commentary track. This month is Shane Black's The Nice Guys. $25 members get to request a Suddenly soundtrack. And a week from this week, so not this upcoming Wednesday, but the following one, the 27th, we are doing Brandon Buckingham's request, which is Rent. And of course, $50 members get to request a monthly watch along. And a special shout out to all our patrons, our executive producers, Randy Parker, Brandon Buckingham, and Ricardo Franco, and our producers, our newest producer, Tyler Birch, Patricia Carrillo, Anton Putra, Jake Berlin, Molly Damon, Bedore, the youth critic Stephen White, and Mike Kay. Thank you all so much for your continued support. We could not do this without you.
100%. So thank you guys as always. And I'm really happy to be back here today, guys, because we're talking about Marvel Studios' very first TV show, their first real live jump into doing something on TV, and that is WandaVision.
So let's just take a quick second, because I've heard some people rabble-rouse about this. So yeah, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. existed. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was a show that featured Agent Coulson and a couple other characters who appeared in the MCU. However, it was produced and overseen by Marvel TV, which is technically a different studio than Marvel Studios. And then, of course, there were the Netflix shows, Daredevil, Iron Fist, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, and then The Defenders and Punisher. Which sort of did have some ties to the MCU, but that was not produced by Marvel Studios as well. So this is the first Marvel Studios show, and I think for the most part they're kind of ignoring those other shows in the continuity, although Charlie Cox may or may be in Spider-Man 3. So that's cool. But
I on that note, I will say these will be the shows that Marvel won't give up on after like 2 seasons, because although Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. exists, they gave up on any connection to the like larger MCU after like season 2, because they were just like, we don't care about trying to make this work.
Which is funny because season 1 was so connected, because season 1 aired when the Winter Soldier came out. So when S.H.I.E.L.D. collapsed, that was a huge aspect of the last few episodes of the first season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which they needed to handle because that was literally what the show is called. But then thereafter, like there wasn't a mention of the snap. There was nothing. So it's kind of funny.
And the truth is like, as we know, the only one that Feige was ever very hands-on in as far as the shows go was Agent Carter. And that only lasted 2 seasons. And that was because so many of the people in Marvel Studios were actually working on that show, from writers to directors.
Right.
So that was the
and
one that
I
always...
love that show very much,
Yes.
but that was also a Marvel TV production.
Yeah, so this is the first one that Feige is really actually like fully overseen, and that's the difference between this and literally all the other shows.
Right. And for what it's worth, of all of those previous shows, Agent Carter is the one I would most love to see come back in some form. I think with the Defenders characters, there's ways to bring them into the movies or as guest stars on these other shows we know that are coming up. But I would love to see a return of Agent Carter. And I think they could, because it takes place in the past, so it wouldn't even necessarily have to be bestowed to the larger MCU continuity.
Anything is possible at this point, as far as the MCU is concerned. As we're learning, WandaVision is a perfect example of literally anything is possible.
So before we dive in and break down the episodes and talk spoilers, I would love just to hear your general thoughts on the episodes. So I don't know if you want to start, Dwayne?
Sure. I think I will be the outlier on this particular episode, because if I wasn't on shows that talk about this show, I don't know if I would continue to watch it.
Okay.
To be completely honest. But from what I've heard about episode 3, because I do know a few people who have seen it already, we're going to get a little bit less of the sitcom and a little bit more of what's actually going on. And right now, there's just not enough of what's actually going on in the show to keep me engaged in the show. The only thing that's actually keeping me engaged in the show is me wanting to know what's going on and trying to piece it together. But the actual content of the show is not that interesting to me.
Okay, that's fair. And that's certainly, I think when, it's a bit of a bold approach, especially for these first few episodes, and I've certainly heard that from other people. Mm-hmm. What about you, PJ?
This show is insanely my jam. Like, I just want to get this out of the way very quickly. Like Dwayne, I completely understand where he's coming from, and I even said last night while we were on call, I was like, I think it probably would have benefited to put the first 4 episodes out, just to be like, these are the sitcom episodes of the show because we know eventually it's going to evolve into more. That being said, they didn't do that, and that's okay, because I really liked the first 2 episodes, and in the way that this was done, it felt very much like a show that I have referenced on here a couple of times, Life on Mars. It had that vibe. There's like a Twin Peaks feel to it. To go back and do this kind of interesting love letter to the 50s and 60s sitcoms, but putting like this small Lynchian twist to all of it, was very perfectly kind of what I would expect out of a WandaVision show if you're doing it this way. We know clearly there's a bigger story at play. We don't know very much yet because we didn't get a ton yet. But it set the groundwork, I think, at least, to build into something very interesting.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you, PJ. So, I went to film school, and in the later years, this guy came and joined the program who really launched the TV program, which didn't really exist. And at that point, there's a couple of TV classes. And he sort of became my mentor, and I became very close with him. His father was a classic late night talk show host. He himself was a sitcom director and producer. And so I really fell in love with television to the point that I continued on and got my master's in television management. So like the history of television has always been fascinating to me and one of my loves. And in particular, I love classic sitcoms, The Dick Van Dyke Show, Bewitched, I Dream of Jeannie, Mary Tyler Moore, Leave It to Beaver, all that sort of stuff. And I think conversely to Dwayne's opinion, which is completely legitimate, I'm not saying otherwise, even if there wasn't that underlying mystery or hook or little tidbits, which we'll get into, I would watch 30 episodes of Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany doing a classic 1950s style sitcom. I thought they nailed the tone. I thought they nailed the type of jokes and plots that exist in those sitcoms, like the classic misunderstandings and communication snafus, the nosy neighbor from next door who gets an applause every time they enter the door. And I thought every actor was so perfectly in on the gag that it felt like such a loving homage and recreation of those sort of 50 shows, with the added plus of, she can do magic. He's an artificial intelligence. Although, as I said, with Bewitched or I Dream of Jeannie, there have been these sort of sitcoms where there's magic. Look, we all know it's going to evolve into something deeper. We've already seen those tidbits. And shifts, which we'll get into, which I thought were fascinating and cool and has me really jazzed to see how it unfolds. But just for me, this was like supremely my shit.
No, absolutely. And that's kind of what I want to get into as we talk about all this, is because I similarly, like everyone knows, like Dick Van Dyke Show is one of my favorite shows of all time. And I know that they talked to him going into this about how to create that sitcom world.
The kitchen looks so similar to the kitchen from the Dick Van Dyke Show. All of these references are intentional.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the set is like almost identical. From the first episode is almost identical. And to be fair, I think that this is similar to the way I feel about The Godfather. I think that I totally understand how well executed the show was. Sure. It's just not for me.
No,
I understand fair. all of the references you brought up, Max. I think are impeccable, and I thoroughly enjoy. Like, I wish we got more comedic Paul Bettany, because his comedic work is tragically underappreciated.
I thought in the second episode in particular, he was hilarious,
because it brought me back to where I was introduced to Paul Bettany in A Knight's Tale. And his, we don't get that anymore. And I think his peak form.
A Knight's Tale is a fucking bop of a movie.
Yes, it is.
Agreed. That's
super underappreciated.
Yes, 100%. I saw earlier someone was talking about our wording at one point. It made me laugh. I think it was Sean, or one of them was like appreciated, and it was like, yes, we're fixing the lexicon around this.
Before we start real spoiler talk, I also want to shout out Matt Shackman, who directed both of these episodes, who I think does just a remarkable job. I will get a little bit more into spoilers now. So there are moments in both of the episodes where we'll call it the illusion starts to break, and the cinematography shifts, the way shots are framed, even the film stock and the type of scoring goes from a very yes, I agree with that. It's a very unfilmed Twitter of him. The way it's scored shifts to something far more modern, and I thought that was so beautifully executed. And like PJ and I last night were talking about Matt Shackman, like if you look at his career, he is really like an unsung hero of television. He's directed everything from Game of Thrones to Mad Men to like all this stuff. His Psych, so many different types of shows. House MD, Ugly Betty, It's Always Sunny, Everwood, One Tree Hill, Boston Legal, 6 Feet Under, like every type of show. Fargo, The Good Wife, Succession, The Boys.
Yeah.
So what you're telling me is he only directs bangers.
That's right. Pretty much.
It's been associated with so many great TV shows, but also shows that exist in so many different genres, which is why he felt sort of like the perfect choice for this, because as we can see very clearly on, this show is going to dabble in different genres.
As it should. And speaking of people who dabble in different genres now, we have someone else who has finally decided to join the stream. Everyone say hello to your favorite Star Wars professor, Sean Sullivan.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Sorry, I was dealing with some stuff.
For the children, correct?
What's going on with your lighting?
For the children.
What's going on with my lighting? What do you mean? Everything's normal.
No, he's got a filter on his camera.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? I don't have a filter.
He's 100% black and white for WandaVision. I appreciate.
I mean, it's not black. It's more of it's more like sepia.
Yeah, it's like a sepia tone lacking saturation.
Right. It doesn't look good. It's a bad choice.
Because we can still see the red in the background a little bit. It didn't.
You mean you could still see the red as kind of like how they do it in WandaVision?
No, not like that.
No, not even close.
Good morning, Professor. Oh, this just made it so much better. Sean, we're starting to jump in. I want to get your initial thoughts on WandaVision.
Well, look, here's the thing. I am not super thrilled with. See, this doesn't work. You all want the glasses. You can't call me professor because we get glare. I didn't love.
I'm wearing glasses and there's no glare. So
I know. I don't know. Look, Max, but I don't wear glasses all the time. So
the three of us all have glasses. No more excuses.
I know. I wasn't super thrilled with the first 2 episodes of WandaVision. I enjoyed them a lot. I really liked the setup. I really liked the just the overall tone of the show so far. The one thing that I kind of felt like was that we're missing something from this show, and not in like a, oh man, I can't wait to find out what we're missing. It's like, I feel like whatever we're missing should have been in these first 2 episodes. Like they needed to give us a little more something. I don't know. It's really hard for me to like put into words what I'm looking for, but I just felt like they could have done something better for these first 2.
And
Is it you wanted a little bit more of what's actually going on?
I wanted a little more
bit too much mystery.
I think there's a little, and it doesn't even feel like mystery to me. That's the problem, right? Like when you look at Lost or another show that sets up like that, I'll use Lost for the example because I know Lost so well. Lost pilot really sets up, okay, there's something fucked up here, and they give you enough to go, okay, well, what's going like why is there a polar bear? What ate the pilot? You know, go ahead.
I would argue that this does that too, and I think we'll dive into spoilers now. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean,
especially in the second episode, between you could clearly hear Randall Park's voice on the radio outside by the pool saying who's doing this to you, Wanda, and then the big one is the beekeeper coming out of the manhole. That to me was like the big, okay, this is not what it seems. This is a big mystery. And then he was able to rewind it, which immediately lets you know that this is some sort of alternate reality. To me, that's enough of a mystery. You know that this is not reality. And then the way each episode at the end, especially the first one, cuts to someone watching it in widescreen, full color. Those are enough hooks for me to establish the mystery without giving away its hand too early.
And that's fair. The first episode also had, I don't know her name, the mom from that '70s show, saying, like, what was she repeating? Stop doing that. Stop doing that. Stop doing that.
Stop it. Just stop it.
Yeah, just stop it. And it like she looks at Wanda at one point, like almost telling her to do it, because there's a part of me, and I don't know about you guys. My curiosity now extends to. Is it all an alternate reality? Is it all in her head?
So,
go ahead, Dwayne.
How deep dive do we want to get here? Because I can go real deep right now in this particular moment.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Okay. So Max, they actually gave us at the end of the first episode. They gave us the exact same thing that they gave us the first clue, and that's when they do that zoom out to the person who's watching. Both on the computer screen and on the notebook is the emblem for the organization's sword.
Which is also on the helicopter.
Which is also on the helicopter and is also on the back of the beekeeper's uniform.
Yes. Yep. Yes, you're right.
Now, for anyone who doesn't know what sword is, in the comics, sword is the space equivalent to shield. Shield is responsible for protecting Earth from Earth-based problems, and sword is responsible for protecting Earth from space-based problems.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in the MCU, we have received what the similar to shield, the acronym does not stand for the exact same thing. In the MCU, SWORD stands for the Sentient Weapons Observation and Response Division.
Yep.
Now, when you think about what that means, sentient weapons, Wanda is a sentient weapon. Vision is a sentient weapon.
And that's something that was kind of
So-
set up if you think in Civil War.
Yes. So what I think is kind of going on is we are in Wanda's head. I think that she has done something similar to what Charles Xavier could do in Logan and has pulled people into the simulation. And another thing from the comics, Sword and Shield do not get along. They are
Yep.
often opposing opinions within the government. So I think Randall Park character, who is normally working for Shield or working with Shield, is looking for Wanda, who is now in the custody of Sword.
Curious.
I think that's
I like
all
where your
pretty-
head's at.
That's all kind of what I put together also.
And I'm also not quite sure who is watching at the end. I am hoping that it's Abigail Brand, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be Darcy, because we've confirmed that Kat Dennings is supposed to be in this, like, 4 episodes, right? Something like that.
And she may be in more of it too, because I think she takes a pretty big part in the real world stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I think she's the one who's watching at the end of episode 1.
Interesting.
I was hoping that it'd be Abigail Brand, because I really want to see Abigail Brand, who, for everyone who doesn't know, is the commander of Sword. Because at some point we're going to have to get the commander of Sword against the commander of Shield, and maybe we would get that in the Nick Fury. What is Ben Mendelsohn's character's name? Talos.
Talos, yeah.
The Nick Fury and Talos show.
Well, so the one thing Haskell brings up that I thought too when at the end of Homecoming was that at the end of Homecoming we see Fury on a space station. And my first thought was, oh, that's Sword Base.
You mean
And Far From Home.
Far
What did
from
I say?
home.
Homecoming? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he's on a ship. The Sword space station is supposed to be in orbit around Earth, but that's also we got to remember, in the MCU, Sword is not space oriented.
Right. No, I understand.
So-
that. That doesn't mean they won't have a cool space station.
True,
Now-
but what I think in the MCU, I think Sword is going to be under the command of William Ross more so.
Okay.
I think because remember when Civil War happened, we had the registration side and we had the non-registration side, and I think what'll end up happening is Sword will be on the registration side, that want to keep accountability for heroes, and Shield will probably end up on the non-registration side, which is let the dudes do what they, let them do what they're gonna do, and kind of let them save the world.
I'm glad that Captain Marvel came up a little bit, because one of the other interesting tidbits is we meet a character named Geraldine, who is sort of helping the talent show and ends up as in the box at the end of the second episode. And Geraldine is Monica Rambeau, who we last saw as a little girl in Captain Marvel, the daughter of Carol Danvers' friend, whose first name I can't remember.
Marie, isn't it just Maria Rambeau and Monica Rambeau? Am I wrong?
That sounds correct.
That sounds
might
right.
be it.
that's
And when she introduced herself, she sort of hesitated before she said her name. So my question is she now a Sword agent or a Shield agent?
She's a Sword agent. That's actually confirmed. They've released promotional material that has on it Monica Rambeau, agent of Sword.
Got
And
it.
we
Okay.
also know.
So she is
to tie to
somehow,
that-
and so my question is, and I think we sit with the Beekeeper. Has Monica infiltrated Wanda's vision and is there keeping an eye on her, or is she someone that Wanda hadn't met before, and she's just sort of populating the other people with familiar faces. I think it's the former. I think she's keeping an eye on her.
I think she is, because she felt like she was aware and didn't want to give her actual name,
Right.
Name. Okay.
which is what it felt like.
And all of this stuff we're talking about, to me, suggests there is a lot of like clues and hints as to what's going on. And I totally get not, loving the sitcom-y stuff, which PJ and I loved. And
So
and
I love
sort of-
I love the sitcom stuff. I really did. I think it's like it's really hard for me. My feelings on this show are very complex. Overall, I liked it, right? But like, it's not.
I think I can try to articulate what Sean's feeling. I'm gonna try. This is a fun game. I think what Sean is feeling is where on The Mandalorian he can do the deep dive stuff that I'm gonna do for this, whereas in this show, and it confuses a lot of people.
Yeah.
But on this show, he can't do that because he doesn't have some.
I could do some of it. I've got a decent, but yeah.
So I already have a pretty good idea who Catherine Hahn's character is, and Sean probably has no idea who Catherine Hahn's character is.
No, not close.
But and that's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about, is where I think a lot of the mystery for people who are big fans of the comics and have a little bit more of the like minute knowledge, a lot of the mystery stuff we picked up on it, whereas. And they're not huge clues, like the House of M references, or
So
the M
that was the big thing. That was the big thing that I was thinking was House of M. The whole time I just kept thinking House of M.
So
Because
I think
reverse House of M.
I'll be honest. I think that had probably already happened,
Oh, okay, interesting.
because when you reach a point similar to where we're at in the comics, House of M has already happened.
Right.
When the character that I believe Catherine Hahn's, and you know what, fuck it, I'll just get into the spoiler of that now. I think Catherine Hahn is Agatha Harkness.
Oh, okay.
I mean, her name is Agnes, so that makes perfect sense.
Well, there's quite a few reasons that I think that she's Agatha Harkness. The other reasons is she has a brooch which later turns into a pendant that has a black cat on it. Her familiar is a black cat. She names the bunny Senor Scratchy. Agatha Harkness's son is named Nicholas Scratch. Her anniversary with Ralph in the first episode is the same day as the first Salem witch trial. Agatha Harkness was a survivor of the Salem witch trials. So there's when Wanda had her memory erased after House of M and after her children were taken, or no, sorry, after House of M, before her children were born, when her memory was erased, Agatha Harkness took care of Wanda and taught Wanda actual magic. So I think that all of those, basically, I think all of those little clues.
I think it makes perfect sense. I think, yeah. I also just want to say, like, on a more macro level, that Catherine Hahn is fucking incredible.
Yes.
I mean, I'm a fan of her in anything. I think she's one of the most talented and funny comedians of our time. What she's doing here actually reminds me a lot of Sarah Paulson in Down with Love. If you know me, you know Down with Love is one of my favorite movies, and I love Sarah Paulson. I think this is the role Catherine Hahn was born to play, is the nosy neighbor who's going to reveal herself to be a secret witch. And I'd already like to start an Emmy campaign for her for supporting actress in a comedy series.
She's so good in this, too. Like, perfect. The way she delivers.
And that's what I mean. Like, every actor, like Fred Melamed, just all of them get what they're doing with the, like, fake sitcom presence. So I also want to talk about the scene with the beekeeper in the sword outfit coming out of the manhole, and that whole thing felt very Truman Show to me. Sure. And the other thing that made me feel very Truman Show is when Wanda's outside and she sees the helicopter with the sword logo and it's in color, and then Agatha comes over and she's like, "You're the main character." or you're the lead, something like that. I don't remember the exact line of dialogue, which she then clarified by saying in the talent show, or you're the star of the show is what she said,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah,
But that also
the
to
star of
me
the show.
felt very Truman Show. And so I think a lot of these other people who are populating Wanda's vision are more aware than we know now.
And that's what I was gonna say is like, it's clear to me that she's populating it with real people right now, whether it's real people in her memory or just parts of them. These are clearly all very real people, and
Right.
each one is a representation of something as we move forward. Because even to the point of what we were talking about with Monica Rambeau, we also know she's going to be in Captain Marvel too. That was announced during Investor Day. So these characters all exist somewhere in the MCU, and as we continue to know them, I think we're going to find that when this show transitions out of this, where we start to see the full story and it goes to what I think more people were expecting the show to be, you're going to see a lot of that, and these people are all going to be very important to whatever part of that story we're seeing.
Yeah.
I
I also want to talk about the commercials a little bit.
Oh yeah,
Well, I love those.
I
love
thought those were great, and I also thought so. Obviously, the first one had a big reference to Stark Industries, and it made me very uncomfortable because as the toaster kept beeping and then the light was red, I was like, "This is going to explode." But the way it talked about time, and then in the second episode, it was a watch by Strucker, and as we know, Strucker captured and held Wanda and her brother captive, which we first saw in a tag in.
that was the end.
Thor? No, it would have been later. Thor 2.
no, Winter Soldier. I think it's Winter Soldier.
I think it's
it might
Winter
have
Soldier.
Okay, which led into Age of Ultron. So we're seeing these two commercials, which are big references to the deep trauma Wanda has suffered in her life. And so, I think if we're assuming, and I think correctly, that this all is happening after Endgame, I feel like the death of Vision and then the big battle at the end of Endgame, the snap, Tony dying, was sort of the breaking point for Wanda's trauma. Sorry, I'm a little tired. So I'm wondering if she sort of lost control of her powers and started fucking with reality in a negative way, which I think is going to lead into Doctor Strange 2 at the end of this season of television. And so SWORD had to put her in a prison cell somewhere, and some sort of, like I'm thinking back to X2 where it was a plastic cell so Magneto couldn't use his powers, some sort of cell that diminishes her powers. So then she's created this reality for herself to escape the trauma and the prison, and then we're slowly seeing these things start to break in to her coping mechanism.
Totally, and I think there's a little bit of because to Dwayne's point, and I'll let Dwayne go from here, but it has a very heavy House of M feel to some of how this is playing out.
I also want a Strucker watch and would wear that proudly. I hope someone makes that.
Even with the Hydra logo on it.
Well, not really. It just looks like a nice watch. Other than
I'm kidding. But so like I
the Hydra logo and similar to the swastika is not lost on me.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
I think that kind of what David said. I think that she has created a reality, and instead of creating people within the reality, she pulled people into the reality. So I think that we're gonna see there's 150 comatose people that are stuck in Wanda's reality, and they've been able to send a few people in, and like the beekeeper is sent in to maintain the reality until they can get everyone out.
Interesting.
And I think that's why you see time reversal twice actually in the first two episodes. Once with the chicken, and she goes too far after she burns it and turns it into eggs, and then again with the beekeeper, and it's always after something that she doesn't want to happen happens. And I think that she is aware of what the beekeeper is there for, and it's to either change something or take someone out or try to break the simulation, and she obviously doesn't want it to happen.
Yeah.
The Strucker reference in the same episode as the beekeeper shows up is not lost on me. In the comics, Strucker is the actual founder of AIM,
Yep.
not Aldrich Killian, and the AIM minions are often called beekeepers because of the uniforms that they wear.
Keepers, yeah.
Because they look like beekeepers. Another thing that, because we moved off of Catherine Hahn so quickly, but that is brought up in the second episode at the end. So Catherine Hahn's husband has not been shown yet.
Yep.
We know that his name is Ralph. We know that their anniversary shares a date with the Salem witch trials. I think I know who her husband is going to turn out to be.
Well,
and
also,
because of a couple things that she says. The devil's in the details. That's not the only place he is.
Mm-hmm.
I think her husband is going to be Mephisto.
Yep.
Oh,
And the reason I think that is because at the end of episode 2, Wanda is shown to be pregnant.
yes.
Yep.
In the comics, Wanda's children, who are Vision's children,
right.
gain their souls from pieces of Mephisto's soul.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
And
So-
that's how
think
she's able to have children with Vision.
Honestly, it didn't even occur to me that we might see her husband later because it felt to me very intentionally like the classic sitcom trope where there's a character you always hear about and never see,
Mhm.
which has sort of been done in sitcoms throughout all of history, going back to the 40s and 50s, all the way towards more recently with, not that it's a good show, but The Big Bang Theory did it with Howard's Mother. Frasier did it with Maris. So it felt like that sort of gag to me. But once we go into the real world, if we
And yeah,
That makes
I don't think we'll ever see him in the sitcom
sure, okay,
world.
And I think that'll play the trope of we
But I
talk
think-
about him, and then
Yeah.
when you see him in the real world, oh,
right? No,
shit.
that makes perfect sense. Yeah.
And
Hi.
this kind of I also don't think I think the difference between, because I don't know if you guys noticed it, but everyone else seems to be fully formed, for lack of a better term. Vision seems to be missing parts of himself.
Well,
and I
okay.
think that the reason for that is because Vision is the only person in this reality that is fully from Wanda's mind.
Right. Okay.
Which
so,
because she didn't pull Vision in. All she has to create Vision in this reality is what she knew of him.
Mhm.
So,
Right, so
there are
that
parts
was gonna-
missing.
I'm glad you said that because that was going to be my other big point. Is obviously you have to assume anyone watching this show has seen Infinity War and Endgame, and the moratorium on spoilers for those, at least in this, is over. Vision dies in Infinity War. He's not snapped away. Thanos pulls his stone out of his head. He decomposes. It's a beautiful moment, one of my favorites in that movie. And he doesn't come back in Endgame. Almost everyone else who dies in Infinity War comes back in Endgame, except for Vision and
He had died.
Heimdall.
Yep.
If you come, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, and speaking that line, my husband and his indestructible head. Literally,
Right, yeah.
the last time we
Yeah.
saw Vision, his head was destroyed.
Right. And it
Right
wasn't
again.
lost on me that when you see him as Vision and not in his human form, the stone is back in his head.
Yeah.
So theoretically, in Endgame, they go and they put the stones back where they belong. So maybe they put the stone back in Vision's body and it brought him back to life. But I am thinking that Vision is still dead, and part of her creation of this reality is her dealing with the grief and loss. So she gets to spend time with her love, who was
Yes.
so quickly taken away from her, which
Yes.
makes me question as the season goes on, and we can assume that we're going to see more and more in the real world. And I think we'll see less and less of sitcom and more traditional, widescreen, full color, modern filmmaking techniques. We won't be seeing Paul Bettany in those scenes.
At
also-
all. You don't think we'll
I
get
also-
back?
I also
I
wonder.
mean, I could see them doing so. Like, if we see Wanda out of the sitcom world, I could see them doing like a 6 Feet Under kind of thing, where she has visions of Vision,
Mhm.
or like Six in Battlestar Galactica.
Okay.
But I don't think he's alive.
I think this kind of makes me the second episode, the For the Children thing,
Mm-hmm.
makes me wonder if Wanda is currently pregnant in the real world,
I think that could be true too.
and that she might be like she might have put herself under, or Sword is keeping her alive long enough to give birth.
I'm wondering. So I would love to know the timeline. So if she is pregnant and it's Vision's child, we have to assume they slept together when they were in Europe before.
She this is the complication with
Technically, Loki is
her
dead,
and her.
but we saw him back in Endgame. We did not see
Yeah.
Vision
And
or Heimdall back in Endgame.
And the one thing we also have to note of this, and this is why I wanted to bring it up before, and then I'll let Dwayne go. Remember, the Loki that we're meeting in the TV show is the alternate reality Loki
Right.
from the time travel. Like,
Right,
so
and the Loki we
is
see in
still
Endgame
there.
is the alternate reality.
Yeah.
Right? So it branches off.
Yeah.
Um, So if they do this similar to the comics, sex with Vision was not required in order for her to have children.
Okay.
She created her children purely from magic, and she used magic to get herself pregnant with Vision's children, because in the comics at the time, Vision was incapable of having children.
Okay.
So I'm assuming that what happened, and I'm going to use the MCU universe, is Tony's. No,
She was not able to.
Vision flew out onto the battlefield, and Thanos ripped the stone out of his head. And what I'm guessing is they tried to put the stone back, and it didn't work. But I think that the energy released by Tony's snap, there was some residual energy, and Wanda was able to channel that into creating children. Yeah, for lack of a better term. Because that's kind of what happened. So in House of M, the fix of House of M is there's leftover residual energy, and that's how Wanda creates her children in the comics. So they're going to have to create a similar event, and I think that's what it's going to be. They're going to use residual energy from the snap, and she'll use that to channel it into herself and create Vision's children.
Okay, so I want to bring up this comment. Do you think her brother shows up at any point? Maybe a commercial. So how do we all feel about talking about rumors?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. This is something
before we talk about rumors, because I haven't heard any rumors, I would expect him to show up in some way, shape, or form in this.
Well, and so
the rumor that I've heard, and I think PJ's probably heard too, is that it'll be a different actor. Someone who's played the character before in another film series.
That's kind of what I was expecting to be honest.
Evan Peters, which could be the way that the MCU integrates the X-Men into it now that they have the rights to those characters.
Yeah, because
my other question is, I mean, Magneto is Wanda's father. Obviously, prior to now, they couldn't mention that because they didn't have the rights to the character. But that could also be a way to bring the X-Men into the MCU. I don't know if I'm not saying Magneto's going to show up in this show, but I wouldn't be surprised. So there was an interview done recently where I think it was Paul Bettany said a character shows up that no one's expecting and is going to blow your mind. My first thought was it's Magneto.
Yeah, I saw that interview. I was thinking the same thing.
Now, before Chadwick Boseman passed away, I thought the perfect way to bring the X-Men into the MCU would have Black Panther marry Storm, which he does in the comics.
Yeah.
And they could still bring Storm into Black Panther too. I think that would be perfect. But
I think, and I mean, to go to your point in all this, we just saw the news about Chris Evans as well. And if
Well,
Evans
I
is,
think I know what that tells us, and it doesn't have much to do with the X-Men.
well,
No, it doesn't.
No, but I was gonna say there is a way to do stuff like that though with him also in the X-Men. If you wanted to do any stories set during World War II, if you're trying to explain where Wolverine has been, you could do a movie that has Chris Evans and the actor playing Wolverine during the war.
I don't think that there's any way to explain where the X-Men have been. I think the only way to move forward with the MCU is for them to be created from this point forward.
That's where I was going with the reverse No More Mutants.
Yeah, I was like, I don't think there's any way that you could say all this stuff went down and the X-Men just said, no, we're not going to show up.
I agree with that.
Well, I don't disagree with that, but like certain characters like
They were on
Wolverine, I
Genosha,
think will
fine.
still have been around. Like
They could also use, say they were on a different
world
Multiverse.
dimension,
Yeah,
multiverse, and then with Wanda or
Yeah.
Doctor Strange 2, they get folded in.
Be-
Since it was brought up, and I don't want to go like too far on a tangent with the Chris Evans thing, I am somewhat confident that if it is true, it'll either be in flashbacks or an alternate version Cap. I don't think it'll be like the Cap we saw going forward. I don't think they'll cheat the game like that.
I think what it'll be, it's not going to be Steve Rogers at all.
That's
I think based on what we've seen so far and what we've been revealed so far, if you're bringing in Sword, that means that you've got only one for well, I mean, pun intended, endgame, and that is Secret Invasion and Secret Wars.
Mhm.
And I 100% believe that we are going to get a Skrull as Steve Rogers, and that is who Chris Evans is going to be playing. I think that is the end game for however many phases we're moving forward in the MCU is
because we're already getting
Secret Invasion and Secret Wars.
Because
the Russos also said that they would return to do a Secret Invasion movie.
well, what?
So yeah,
isn't
I
it-
just I saw people lamenting Chris is coming back. These movies have no stakes, and for what it's worth, I think in this wild sci-fi comic book world, any version of Chris Evans we see will be a different entity than the Cap whose story came to an end. It's not going to be, oh, you know what, I decided to come back at a time and fight, because I also don't think they're going to cheapen Falcon taking over the moniker.
And remember, Secret Invasion is also the show that we're getting with Sam Jackson and Ben Mendelsohn. They announced it.
Yes.
So we are on track to do stuff with the Skrulls.
Oh, this is pretty good. Doctor Strange, Multiverse Doctor Strange 2. He sees a world under attack from Galacticus, the X-Men fighting on their losing planets lost, and he offers them a new home on our world. I can see something like that.
Here's my problem. If we're leading to Secret Invasion, Secret Wars, we cannot introduce Galactus until after that.
Yeah, agreed.
I just thought the general idea of the X-Men being on another dimension that come in that way. The only question then is, how did Magneto father Wanda in this world?
Yeah.
So many questions. That the X-Men thing is so interesting because it's changing the dynamic of everything we know the MCU to be. Like, Peter was a really easy thing to like shift back in. Peter Parker's universe is still MCU enough, you know?
Right. And I love that they never really gave us they also helped out folding in Peter Parker and Spider-Man by not doing the origin story.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Because they didn't have to explain that part. But I think that I think what we're going to see, I think Wanda is going to be responsible for the creation of mutants. I'm hoping. I think this would be incredibly daring. I don't know if they're going to do it, but Fantastic Four are out of time. Mm-hmm. So they are. I think what my idea would be, they were trying to replicate Hank Pym's experiments, got stuck in the quantum realm, back in the 60s.
Yep.
They get extricated now, and they've been there so long that, similar to Janet Van Dyne, they come out with these incredible powers.
Mm-hmm.
and that's how you create.
Yeah, and I mean,
fantastic-
theoretically, Eric Lensher could be Wanda's father. He just doesn't become a mutant until after now.
Because
well, her father would be. Well, yeah, if she doesn't know who her actual father is, yeah, it could work. Because if you go off her and Pietro's parents, they're dead in the MCU.
They've never actually confirmed the source of Wanda and Quicksilver's powers.
Yes, they have. They were given their powers from the stone as experiments done on them by Strucker.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they are not
so
mutants in the classic sense as they are.
No, they are. They're enhanced.
This is somewhat unrelated, but the fact that it's heavily rumored that Charlie Cox is returning as Daredevil in Spider-Man 3, I would not be surprised if not only do we get Kingpin in a future Spider-Man or other MCU film, that we will get what's his face back.
Vincent D'Onofrio.
Vincent D'Onofrio.
She-Hulk.
Yeah, and I was going to say, and also we're hearing that Kristen Ritter is heavily rumored to be coming back as Jessica Jones and She-Hulk.
Well, now the time has passed. They had to wait a couple years for the Netflix contract to expire before Disney MCU got the availability to use these characters again, and that has happened.
Well, and I can say this like very confidently, is that I had told Maxwell about this Daredevil stuff like very not long after Far From Home came out, because I knew Marvel wanted to do it, but they were playing a game. Them and Sony had to try to see how long they could play out the wait on shooting because the Netflix deal. And so
I think it was 3 years.
It was like 2 years or 3 years, yeah. And so they basically had to play this timetable frame, and so that means kind of similarly with Civil War, you didn't need Peter Parker, but they were able to do it because they had two versions of the script. One, it was like, well, in this script we could do generic lawyer character that needs to defend Peter, or we have one where it's actually going to get to be Matt Murdock, and we can hope we can run the timer out. And
right, I don't think we'll see him in the suit in Spider-Man 3. I just think we'll see him as Matt defending Peter.
Yeah.
However, I don't know if you guys saw the interview recently with Ben Affleck where he talked about how he thought Kevin Feige is pretty much the best producer. So my first thought was, could you imagine a Daredevil movie in the MCU starring Charlie Cox, directed by Ben Affleck?
I want that movie so bad.
So bad.
I'd watch it.
Of course, because I think Ben Affleck's a terrific filmmaker. I mean, The Town and Gone Baby Gone fucking slap, as the kids say.
Oh man, I would also like to see Ben Affleck in a Daredevil movie, not necessarily as Daredevil, but just as any character. Any character.
Honestly, haven't played. Well, have we seen? Did we see his? Well, no. I don't think they need to be beholden to the show that much. He could be his father.
Has Bullseye been revealed?
Yeah, Bullseye was in Daredevil.
Okay, he
was.
I can't remember the show. I haven't seen it in so long.
Yeah, Bullseye was. But again, I don't think they have to be beholden to what happened in the show. I think
because initially I was going to say Ben Affleck is Foggy, but I was like, oh, but they already have one, and I like him, so
I like him too. But this is assuming they'll recast those same people. They don't have to.
Yeah, because I think that, and I've talked about this also with you guys kind of privately. There's a good chance that they also want to try to disconnect themselves as much from the Netflix stuff as possible, outside of trying to get a couple of the actors back, because there has been problems with some of the people behind the scenes of the Marvel Netflix stuff, and you don't want to, you want to take the stuff that people want back, but you also need to be able to be like, we also are doing our own thing and don't want to be tied to that person.
Which is why I think seeing some of the same character or actors playing the characters will happen, but it won't be beholden to the continuity that was established in those shows. So if they wanted to bring Charlie Cox back as Daredevil and reintroduce a different actor as Bullseye, I could see that happening.
Yeah, because they could totally just say all those people were wiped out by the snap.
Right, exactly. There's so many ways they could do it, and that's the thing is like, guys, man, these are like comic book movies.
What up, Alex?
What's up, Alex?
Hey, Alex.
Happy anniversary on Don't Forget the Enye, one of my favorite songs.
It's a bop.
Like, this shit gets so weird. Like, what the movies have done is only like an infinitesimal amount of convoluted weirdness that comics do. I mean, comics every 6 weeks rewrite themselves and have different continuities, and so it's just sort of par for the course. And I understand cinema goers are sort of taught to watch movies in a different way and expect different things. But I think the MCU has sort of retaught that.
But what's canon, Max?
I don't care. I literally don't care.
But Max, I have to know.
The beauty of me loving horror movies and growing up on horror movies is that so many of my favorite series
Like
would
I
just like
fucking love the
jettison
Halloween
stuff.
movies. I love
Yes!
Halloween 2. I love Halloween 4. I love H2O, and then the new Halloween, which I also love, erases all those. And you know what? I don't care.
Halloween is literally the choose your own adventure of cinema because there are so many timelines.
With the X-Men movies, the continuity and timelines make no sense.
There
But-
is no continuity.
There is no continuity. I mean, they're based on comic books, and like every 6 months, Marvel is like, we're restarting Wolverine.
Yeah, that's where
Just enjoy it.
that's where as a fan of Star Wars and a fan of comic books, sometimes I laugh at the larger Star Wars community because they're like,
Yeah.
but that's not canon, and I'm like, have you read a comic book?
Shit. Like for me, it's like I enjoyed this shit, and that's about the extent of it. Like I love theorizing and having these conversations we're having. I don't care if it's like perfectly in continuity or what's canon or not. It's just fun.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, that's what it boils down to. Like Endgame was thrilling, Winter Soldier's thrilling, Black Panther is great.
It's almost like these movies being great and also theme park attractions can go hand in hand, and calling them theme park attractions is not an actual excuse to hate things.
Absolutely.
Yep.
But
So does anyone have any other things they want to talk about before we head off?
I mean, I'm just curious about the future of the MCU as a whole now,
Me too.
Especially now that Sword has been introduced, because that makes me wonder about things in like a couple other films, like in Spider-Man 3. Now that we have Sword and we know that we're gonna get all these, rumored different Spider-Men.
Mm-hmm.
Are we also going to get Spider-Woman? Because she is an agent of Sword. Like
and it could happen.
So are we going to get Jessica Drew? In Falcon Winter Soldier, we know that I'm pretty sure it's been confirmed that Baron Zemo is supposed to be the antagonist for that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
it's confirmed.
the first
probably
iteration,
To actually wear the outfit.
but the first iteration of the Thunderbolts was led by Baron Zemo. And for anyone who doesn't know, the Thunderbolts are basically the Suicide Squad of the MCU.
And it's almost like there's a reason that they wanted to bring William Hurt back in Civil War.
Exactly.
I think cinema is what you want cinema to be, and that's sort of the end of that discussion.
Real quick, so
You know what
Ed
cinema
Harrell,
is? It's things that are shown in the cinema.
Ed Harrell wanted to point this
Please,
out.
That's not
Haskell
even true
420.
now because
Haskell 420.
things now are not being shown in the cinema because of the pandemic, and it's still cinema.
Well, yeah, true. That is
But
true. But you understand my
This is true. Olivia Wilde is directing Spider-Woman. And it's technically not an MCU movie, it's a Sony movie, but as we've seen with Michael Keaton in the Morbius trailer, they're not averse to doing the continuity or crossovers in the other direction.
right.
Because
And I
I'll be
think-
shocked if we don't see Tom Hardy, Venom,
Well,
and Peter and Tom Holland crossing paths in
I
some
mean-
sort of Sinister Six.
and that feels like, I guess not to jump too far out of the realms of what we're talking about, but one of the big things I think that this new Spider-Man film is also doing, part of the reason we're seeing this idea that all the actors that we knew from the other movies are coming back is because they want to do Sinister Six. They've wanted to do Sinister Six for a long time.
Well, it's sort of a shortcut to do it. You have Alfred
Exactly.
Molina back as Doc Ock. You bring
Thomas Hayden Church back.
Thomas Hayden Church back. You bring
Jamie Foxx.
Willem Dafoe and Willem Dafoe back, and then you just sort of have Sinister Six right there.
Yeah.
Damn it, Max.
Look, all I'm saying is I would love to see, maybe in what are we in phase 4? So in phase 5, a Willem Dafoe as Norman Osborn led Hammer. I would love it.
So, besides the fact that we all know Marzonia has a big old crush on Caitlin Dever, the fact that she is a hugely talented actress and has worked with Olivia Wilde before and is the right age does make it a great idea.
I would love to see.
go ahead.
Just on the topic of William Dafoe. I'd love to see William Dafoe as Iron Patriot.
There's always the chance.
If we're gonna get Thunderbolts, I want to see William Dafoe as Iron Patriot.
Because if you're bringing Norman Osborn back,
the other thing that we're sort of not talking about is Eternals.
Yeah.
And what sort of impact that could have. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Sword involved in Eternals in some capacity. And that's pretty much my most anticipated MCU thing right now, just because I think Chloe Zhao is such an incredible fucking filmmaker.
I'm so excited that she got to write the script, too.
And the fact that she was willing to sign on to this project after making films that are so austere and minimalist and like as independent gets, to the point that she didn't use a single real actor in the writer, and other than 2 in Nomadland, it was all real people, means she must have been given, a lot of carte blanche to do what she thinks is best. But
and Feige even said, remember, she came in and pitched it. Eternals was not even on their radar, and
that's the thing is, like, going back to like what you said about the theme park attractions, or that comment, like, is it cinema? Like, we see these certain types lament these type of movies versus cinema, but the reality is some of the great filmmakers of our time fucking love this stuff. Like Paul Thomas Anderson, who is arguably like a brilliant filmmaker who makes art films, loves this shit. Quentin Tarantino is a huge fan of the MCU.
Well, no, it's like
don't need to be mutually exclusive.
It's when people were like, when the Barry Jenkins news broke about Lion King 2, and people were like, "Oh man, that's like not his type of film," and I'm like, who wouldn't want to like?
Yes.
I don't care if I make the most art house, like, best picture nominated films. If you give me the chance to make a fucking Star Wars movie, I'm making a fucking Star Wars movie. Like, why would I turn that down? Why would I turn down the chance to create something in a space that I absolutely love?
100%. Like, I think it's no secret that I would love to make films one day. I want to make a horror film. I want to make like Noah Baumbach, Greta Gerwig-esque like New York dramedy, and I want to make a superhero movie. Those 3 things don't have to be exclusive from each other, because I love all of those things.
Yep.
And yeah, this is also valid. People like money.
Yeah.
Yes. But I mean, Barry Jenkins, who I think is incredible, Moonlight's one of my favorite films of all time. If Beale Street Could Talk is gorgeous. Like, this is a man who would not take a project he didn't want to do.
100%.
He had his pick. I mean, he won Oscars for Moonlight. He
can do what he wants, man. Yeah. And these people, look,
Ava DuVernay, who is going to do New Gods. Mm-hmm. She wasn't forced to do that. These people want to do it.
Like, I see people getting so upset, but
that they're selling out. It's like, not really. They're doing what they're having fun.
Yeah, man. Like to Dwayne's point, you tell me that I could make like any movie I wanted that was just like well-renowned and somehow becomes like some fantastically loved film Twitter phenomenon. But then you're also like, hey, come direct a Fast and the Furious movie? Fuck yes, strap in, I'm doing it. Like, these people love this stuff. Christopher Nolan is a big fan of the Fast and the Furious movies. Do you know why? Because there's nothing wrong with liking movies that are fucking fun. It's just not. Like, it's okay to have fun with things, guys. Film doesn't always have to be the most serious thing ever. Yeah. I love serious dramas. I do. But also, you know what? Sometimes I want to watch a Michael Bay movie, and that's okay. Like, it's okay to fucking have fun. Relax. Take a breather. Enjoy it. Like, it's not that serious.
One of the things I love so much about movies is the variety.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, there's so many different things.
Shit.
Like, you could watch a movie about dick and fart jokes. And then you could watch an existential drama about our pending death and doom. And then you could watch Fast Five, where they fucking steal a safe and have one of the greatest car chases in cinema.
Through Rio.
Like, there's room for all of that shit.
But I'm not gonna lie. If I got the chance to here's a question. If there's one franchise if there's one franchise or series Sean, I already know what you're gonna say. What one would you direct, like in an installment in? I know mine.
I know
would
mine.
be, and I don't know if Max is going to be the same. I would direct a Step Up movie. I would love to direct a Step Up movie, like so much. Like I would love it.
I would like to direct a Mission Impossible.
Does it have to be an existing franchise?
So real quick, I just want to pull up this.
I would
picture.
say yes, but
Yes,
let me
that's-
hear both because
Brett-
if it's not an existing franchise, I know what mine would be as well.
Dresden Files.
I knew you were going to say that.
1 second.
So if it's a non-existent franchise, well, I guess technically it does exist, but
I would
Aragon.
also-
I would completely undo. I would completely undo that movie.
I'm with
I
you
would
on that one.
also love to direct a Scream movie.
Ooh.
You know, before it was only Wes Craven, maybe not, but now that someone else has been given the reins, I would love to direct a Scream movie.
So I just wanted to bring this up. I think it's this is one of our actual looks.
I mean, you don't need that. They released trading cards that have
what I'm
her on
wondering.
it.
Yeah,
And
Is that Randall Park in the back? I can't quite.
that is.
Yeah,
That's 100%
yeah, it
Randall
is.
Park.
It is,
So
and that's also kind of like I wish you wouldn't have brought that up because I don't. That has 100. Like I don't even think that's in episode 3. So that we're not going to see
Are her
that for
hands
weeks,
glowing there?
and that's definitely something that we probably
Her
should not
hands
be
look
out on
like
the
sort
internet.
of the effect that we. Yes.
I think it might have been from one of the trailers though. That looks like
She,
it was a screenshot from the trailer.
She's Photon. She has
No, I know.
power
I'm
similar
saying,
to Captain Marvel.
do we know that she's so? But that's confirming that she already has her powers, or is
Yeah,
getting this.
I think we already knew that.
Oh God, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, so Randall Park. If you guys have not seen the Netflix movie "Always Be My Maybe," please watch it. It's a very, very funny romantic comedy with him and Ali Wong that has a super authentic cultural spin on it because they co-wrote the movie. It is very funny and really good. Like to me, it's as good of a like normal romantic comedy as we've gotten in a long time.
Yeah.
I also one last thing I want to mention because Dwayne mentioned Winter Soldier and Falcon, or is it the reverse? I don't remember. Falcon
and the Winter Soldier.
Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Originally pre-pandemic, that show was supposed to come first. That was supposed to be the first Disney Plus MCU show. Once the Black Widow movie got delayed, they delayed Falcon and the Winter Soldier, both because that was still shooting and they had to take a break before getting back to shooting with the pandemic. But I believe they also had to reshoot some stuff because the way it integrated into Black Widow had to change.
Yeah.
I think
So I'm curious to see what impact that has.
on that note, I think there's two things that I think about those delays. One, I think the fact that they've continued to delay Black Widow tells us that for the most part, the movie doesn't have that much impact largely on the MCU because they've been able to keep moving it. Now, outside of which character survived the movie,
The door.
I was pulling it
Really?
up for you.
Thank you.
but I do think that Falcon and Winter Soldier, because we saw how long the reshoots took. It took for them to finally get out of production. I think they had to reshoot more than we think, and it's not just how it tied into Black Widow, but also how WandaVision ties into Falcon and Winter Soldier, because that's what's next. That's the next thing that we're going to get in the MCU after WandaVision. So whereas WandaVision wouldn't have affected it before, it does now.
Right.
Interesting. I think to your point about Black Widow, I'm looking forward to the movie. I think it could be really fun.
Yeah,
I like what I've
that's
seen.
that's not what I'm saying.
I
just
think the only big impact it will have at the larger MCU is that we will see Black Widow in future MCU movies, but it'll be Florence Pugh.
Yeah, and that's
Well,
that's
and
what I
we
was
know
getting at. Is
Florence
that
Pugh is coming
as a whole, the movie doesn't affect a lot in the entire world, but
Because
that doesn't mean the movie isn't important.
it is confirmed.
I
that
mean, look at
Florence
this.
Pugh-
Sean is pretty cute too, by the way, not gonna lie. I mean, in all honesty, all the men on Scream are. Let's just say this is a very handsome panel. Guys, wow.
Thank you, guys.
Where were you in high school when I felt like shit all the time?
Fuck. God damn. Look.
We're
I
not
think-
just objects, people. We have thoughts.
I'm gonna go on the opposite of what Dwayne says and say, please objectify me as much as you'd like to your heart's content.
With that, is there anything else you guys?
No, I just want to reiterate, how much I absolutely love these first 2 episodes. I'm gonna watch them again. They delighted me. They thrilled me. I thought they were so beautifully executed and were so supremely played to my interests. I completely understand why they may not work for other people. But I'm also, just such a fan, and I'm excited to see where it goes. And I have a feeling both Dwayne and Sean, as it develops more, you're going to end up liking it more and more as we see more and more of the real world stuff.
Yeah, I'm expecting.
I just like bold swings and think this is such a bold start to a series that's it's like nothing we've seen in Marvel. It's like nothing anyone else is really doing on TV right now. Some of it actually reminded me a little of The Good Place at times, which I didn't mention earlier. Sort of like with the neighborhood where sort of a lot of people are in on the non-reality of Wanda's reality. So yeah, and the jokes this 100%. I thought it wasn't just that they nailed the classic sitcom aesthetic; it was genuinely funny. Mm-hmm. So I loved it. I'm gonna watch it again.
I wholeheartedly think that at the end of this, I think this might be one of the best things the MCU has done so far. It just these first 2 episodes weren't particularly for me, but that's fine.
Yeah,
and I kind of I liked the first 2 episodes a lot. It just didn't, to me right now, it has sort of felt like these have felt like the old Marvel one-shot shorts. They don't, to me right now, they don't feel like they're leading to something bigger, which is fine.
I didn't feel that way, but that's fine.
And granted, yeah, you're right. There are a lot of little, things to pick up on, and especially the beekeeper suit and the use of color when they do use color, like that kind of stuff. Yeah, I pick up on it. I didn't catch that it was Randall Park on the radio. I had no idea who it was on the radio.
I knew immediately. I was like, oh, that's Randall Park's voice. I know that voice. Oh, that startled me. Is everything okay?
I think my parents are here, and so they're trying to get down to my parents.
Wow.
I really,
quite a noise.
It's funny that you bring up The Good Place because I just finished The Good Place.
I know.
And those first couple episodes, as soon as I was done with them, I went, okay, I have to see the next one.
I noticed. I noticed that too. I love.
So I think everyone keeps saying that it's the color of Iron Man's armor. It's actually the original colors for Vision. So
yeah, that's true.
I understand everyone ties that to Iron Man. So his original cape is super yellow, and then he is that kind of. He's not
red.
That purple color that we get in Avengers. He's actually closer to that red.
And I know that there's been some discussion about, should they have released more episodes with this type of show? For me, I'm sort of a TV purist. I love it when episodes are released week by week because it really lets you sit in it and theorize about it. That half the fun of watching Lost or Battlestar when they aired was, and for me, conversely to what you said, Sean, I cannot wait for next week.
Yeah, and the other thing, with just to your point with Cobra Kai, I wish Cobra Kai was released weekly and not all at once.
I think Netflix, while they've had some great TV shows, has sort of ruined the way people want and watch their TV shows. Mm-hmm. There was all that backlash when season 2 of The Boys decided to release week by week. That's how TV was done for 65, 70 years. It's only in the last 4 or 5 years that's changed.
That's the thing is even Netflix has done week to week shows. One of my favorite shows on Netflix with the Hassan Minaj. It was every week. And
American Patriot?
No, it was
what's it called?
What was it named? I forget the name of the show, but they canceled it. And I'm like, it was the best thing that you had on Netflix. It was literally the best thing you had, and they canceled it.
Patriot Act.
Yeah. It's they canceled it earlier or last year.
Yeah.
And it's you canceled the best thing that you had on
And
Netflix.
the other benefit of releasing week by week is it continues the conversation.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I fucking love Stranger Things. Everyone watched all 8 or 9 episodes in 2 days, talked about it for a couple days, and the conversation was done.
Yeah.
And it's a good way to sustain conversation, which I think for a streaming service allows, like, from a business sense, people keep subscribing.
The other with Stranger Things too. Like I watched the first season of Stranger Things. I really enjoyed it. I did not watch the second and third seasons, and part of that was because when they dropped, I went, "Oh man, I don't have time to watch all this right now."
And that's
Yep.
exactly it too. And I mean,
Well,
look, the other
that's
thing
the
is
other thing. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was
when
going
the-
to say. Yeah.
We both say go ahead. And
Yeah.
to your point, Sean, when a show releases a whole season at once, there's also a part of my mind that's like, well, I'll get to it when I get to it. There's no rush. Unless it's like a handful of shows, Stranger Things being one of them, conversely to you, that's like a major priority for me because I love it so much.
Mm-hmm.
But if something's week by week, yeah, I could carve out 40 minutes to watch this episode every week. Of course, during the pandemic, I watched 9 seasons of The Office in 20 days. So,
Yeah.
rules are meant to be broken.
Yeah,
But generally,
I've
I
watched,
do prefer the week to week.
Yeah, I was
is
gonna
it
say
keeps
I watched.
conversation going.
I've watched 10 seasons of SG1 and 5 seasons of Atlantis in the last
So
month.
good. I think everyone on this panel, Dwayne, can agree that SG1 is one of the greatest sci-fi television
Peak
shows.
science fiction television.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely top tier.
Certainly, it tops the movie.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I mean the casting, everything about that show is just magnificent.
Let's talk about Highlander.
I will say, Cobra Kai is the type of show where once you start, you aren't going to want to stop.
Yeah,
Because every
Mike,
episode is a cliffhanger.
Cobra Kai comes 10 out of 10 recommendation from me. I don't care how you feel about the Karate Kid. 10 out of 10 recommendation.
Yeah, I still haven't watched Cobra Kai. I'll probably get to it at some point.
Yeah. Well, this has been our water cooler chat about WandaVision. Much like our Mandalorian show, the total length of this episode is longer than the total length of both episodes of WandaVision that we watched. Let me talk about a couple of things we have coming up on the network, then we can all plug ourselves, and we'll let you enjoy the rest of this lovely Saturday. Tonight, on our Twitch, it is Mario Party Madness, 8 people playing a game designed for 4 people. So late to the party will be sharing a controller. William Bibiani and his wife will be sharing a controller. The Smiths will be sharing a controller. And somehow Chris Clark got paired with Eric Barnes. I don't know how that's going to work. They're not going to be in the same room, but good luck. And as I mentioned before, William and his wife just recently lost their cat, Sergio. He passed away. So any donations that come in tonight will be going towards William to help with the vet and funeral fees for the loss of their cat. Again, we send our condolences and love to the Bibianis. So tomorrow is Sunday, which of course means it's unwind time. Don't know what we're going to talk about. We always find something. Monday night, PJ's birthday bash continues with the watch along of Dr. Sleep. PJ's birthday is Tuesday. As I've been saying, the birthday gift I really want to get for PJ is 500 subscribers on the YouTube channel. So
We're 39 away.
like us, tweet it out. Tweet the link, say hashtag whatever I said last time. Happy birthday, PJ. I don't remember. And let's try to get to 500 subscribers. We're not that far. I think we can do it. I believe in you. Couple other things. Wednesday night, Chris Clark didn't want to do a Suddenly Soundtracks. I said no. So myself and David B. and Tim Franco have hijacked Suddenly Soundtracks. We're doing Add It to Playlist. The Government Totally Sucks, which really is just our favorite protest or rebellion songs. And then Friday night, talking about the inauguration, and we've been doing some Sorkin movies. We're doing a watch-along of The American President, which is a great movie. So hopefully you join us for all of that. And Book Nook, get a copy of The Ruins of Gorland from your local independent bookstore, bookshop.org. That's the 26th. Dwayne and I cannot wait to host that and talk to you about the book and break it all down. And also, on that episode, we'll announce what next month's book is going to be. So be sure to tune in for all of that. And, of course, thanks to our patrons, our executive producers and producers. We could not do this without you. Sean, where can we find you online?
Are we doing the bit, or am I just...
Just do it. Just be legit.
Okay. You can find me at Suit Up Sully on Twitter. Sean Sully on Twitch. I'm pretty sure all you guys already follow me, so, you know where to find me. But I'm going to plug one thing that isn't me. Tonight over on A Certain Point of View, my lovely girlfriend Jill and Molly Damon are premiering their new show. I think it's called Happy Hour.
It is. I have a hoodie
have,
and a T-shirt and a mug on the way from TeePublic with that logo because I love it so much, and I love Jill and Molly so much.
They will be having a special guest today, Laura Kelly, and they will be also drinking a specific cocktail, which I hope they tweet out the cocktail so people.
They did already.
Okay, good.
The POV Twitter account posted the recipe for the cocktail about 2 hours ago or so.
It is very good. It is one of the Galaxy's Edge cocktails. I'm
so excited for the show. Even though my Rangers hockey team will be playing, I'm gonna have that on the TV and Happy Hour on my laptop. I'm so excited. How about you, Dwayne? What do you got going on? Where can people find you?
You can find me everywhere at Burkmade, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch tonight at 6 p.m. Pacific time, where I'll be playing games with anyone who's in the chat that wants to play. I'm going to start with Warzone, and then we'll go from there, depending on how many people show up.
Is Warzone cross-platform compatible?
It is.
So I'm going to go download it on my Xbox, and maybe I'll come try and be terrible at killing people.
Hey, Maxwell.
It's fine. I've only got 3 wins or 4 wins in total in the entirety of the time that I've played Warzone. So
Maxwell, you know what other game you could play with Dwayne and I is Squadrons.
That is true. You could also play Squadrons.
I'm so bad at it.
It's fine. You know how many times we won? Like maybe 3. And we keep playing.
6 Pacific, right?
6 Pacific. Yep.
Perfect.
I can get up to 4 people in a squad, and if I can get 24 people, you can do an entire private Warzone match.
Oh, let's do it.
So that's today, and then you can find me all around the interwebs doing random things throughout the week.
Make sure you watch the episodes of Technical Difficulties if you haven't already. They're very helpful.
Oh yes,
if you are a streamer, questions, send them Dwayne's way. Sorry, I'm promoting for you.
No. I definitely need it because I have about 5 more topics, and then I'm out of the suggestions that I've gotten so far. So I do need more. So please shoot them my way.
It is weekly, right?
It is every week on Wednesdays, 4 p.m. Pacific time on my YouTube channel. That's YouTube, or just search Burkmade on YouTube. I don't have a custom URL yet. Please go subscribe, because then once I get 100 subscribers, I can create a custom URL.
PJ, how about you?
You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at PJ_Campbell. You can find me here hanging out with all these lovely people talking about all sorts of things. And you can find me at the Movie Trivia Schmodown, where I write questions. Be nice to the writers. We're only human.
You can find me on Twitter and Letterboxd at CinemaXwell, Instagram at CinemaXwell Inc., and here on the PJ Campbell Network. On behalf of all of us, thank you so much for hanging with us today. We will see you tomorrow night for the Unwind. Be safe, wear your masks, and have a lovely weekend.
Bye, guys.
Unusual couple, you know.
Oh, I don't think that was ever in question.
At last,